Collage was a chance encounter for me. Before I was an artist, I was making these little films in high school. The worst movie I've ever made, the son of the worst movie ever made, the esophagus exchange. You know, they were kind of campy thrillers and little skits and bits. And we had one moment in a film where we needed people reading magazines. And my mom subscribed to a cooking magazine, now defunct, that was very good, called Sphere. And I think the title was a reference to the world of cooking, the sphere of cuisine. And I found an issue that was a brioche on the cover, and I cut out and rearranged the SPHERE to say herpes, and put it back together. So we had people reading Emit magazine instead of Time, and herpes, and just, you know, it wasn't the point of the scene, it was just a little window dressing. But I think that I enjoyed the humor of that, and also the instantaneous quality of it. I mean, I could see the word in my head, have the idea, cut it out, and the thing was made in, 10 minutes. And then it was a sub. It was like a stunt double for something else. I've had periods where I didn't have a studio, and so I used the kitchen table. I used the back of the pickup truck. I've used the seat of the pickup truck. And in fact, I got evicted from my building in 2005, and very deliberately I spent a whole year not making art in my studio, which I still had access to, I just couldn't live there anymore. I'm trying to treat it a little bit like new outlook, new work. So I'm cutting out things in the living room. I'm maybe doing some printing in the big studio. I'm building things in other places. And I always have 4 or 5 different projects mediumistically going at any one time. And so, and also you've probably noticed that things are hung kind of like a gallery, or, there's different conceits. This is kind of salon style, all monochromatic work. And there are bigger things in other rooms. The Duchamp room is a room that I use to teach in. And so students come down and they go through the books, and if they're interested, they take something to do more research from. So I kind of like having a house that's equal parts studio, school, storage facility, and I don't know, lair, in the supervillain sense. 20 years ago, the answer was really different than the answer today. The answer today is they're harder to do. I learn more, and I often think at the onset I'm not going to be able to pull this off. So they are my surefire device for getting in over my head. So that means that they serve a very important role, which is to unbalance me and to challenge complacency. I think it's really easy to get complacent making the collages that I do, because they're very pleasurable to make. I search for a long time for the images, so there's a whole hunter-gatherer situation, and then the techniques of organization really play into the content. They were places embedded with a narrative, or many narratives, whether they were about eugenics, or about the last man hanged in Rensselaer County, or about the space program. The difference between installation and image has become that the collages now are starting to feel more like places, like dioramas, and the installations feel more like hundreds and hundreds of moments for still lifes. So they're yielding their other qualities in terms of the time that I spend with each of them. Well, 2020 is when the contract ends, but Larry Smallwood, who up until about 2 years ago was the deputy director, had asked me if I would renew the contract, and I was delighted. Larry's moved on to the Clark as the deputy director of the Clark, And Joe, I think, is a fan of the piece, Joe Thompson. It sells a lot of T-shirts, and I originally pitched it as the sort of updated version of Natalie Jeremichenko's Trees. I wanted it to be a new icon for Mass Mocha. And especially because, the original invitation was to make a piece about solar power, and I felt really good about an artwork that would do double duty as a sustainable energy machine. And maybe people would get more interested in solar and sustainability by, if they could possibly get a little captivated or charmed by this component of it. And so the dialogue now is, well, how long do we keep it there, and what do we need to do? It's really looking a little beat up. So we have to replace the parachutes. We have to get some newer, more reliable video components. I mean, in some ways, the tech in it is 14 years old because it took me 4 years to make it. And so it needs some attention, and there are also things that we didn't deploy in it for various reasons that were made for it that I think we will trot out, like, recently reclaimed archaeological artifacts, things that weren't conserved properly yet. So it's especially interesting when children come upon this piece, because I think, most adults understand it as an artwork, but kids really understand it as a feeling or a place. And some adults have come over to that. I mean, there have been several weddings, marriage ceremonies held in it. We know that people from security have carried on amorous activities inside. People are often reading the books and taking things and leaving things. So, that doesn't really happen with a picture. I mean, I imagine, the Mona Lisa as an example where, of course, that happens. People make pilgrimages. People get pictures of themselves next to it. It's transcended art at that point. It's something else. It's part of the human mystery. And I think that, this piece has been a good one for me because all of my installations prior to maybe one other one than this always got dismantled at the end. And, I've been teaching architecture now for 20 years, and I have more of an interest in permanence or permanent decay than, the limited run. And so I hope that Mass Mocha keeps it forever. What am I going to do with it, like guest house, guest room.